Whenever there's a challenge, you gotta have a game plan to get out. The run has been broke, no money, having to do other things to create incomes, to live life humbly, small, even though you're making this much money, not touching it, discipline to put it back, having credit card debt to the roof. If you have a mattress that you're still making payments on, the bank might not approve you to go get that loan that you need to go jump into the real estate game, which is something I learned.
Not a lot of people will believe in your project. Not a lot of people will believe in your promises. Not a lot of people will believe in your capability of making this happen. So when you initiate something, a project, a life project, if you could call it like that, choosing the right partner, I think, is one of the key decisions in your life.
It comes down to a team. There's no way you're gonna be doing so much and not have a good team around you. And attracting a good team is all based on your energy and what you bring to the table as a leader.
Hey guys, welcome to Making an Impact. I'm your host, Gian Lucas. I'm thrilled to have you join us today here with our guest, Willie Rodriguez. Willie is the owner of Ace Ornamental Nursery and the co-founder of the Plant Movement podcast. Willie was able to transform his passion for plants into a profitable 65-acre nursery business. And through his podcast, he's creating waves connecting business people, entrepreneurs, professionals, and plant enthusiasts. Willie, I'm thrilled to have you join us today.
I'm thrilled, man. Thank you for letting us
This
be
is
here.
a great opportunity for us to talk, honest conversation of what this very niche industry is and how you use it in your favor to build something that you are proud of and obviously leverage it to build new projects and especially creating a comfort area for you and your family to live happily, and understanding that financials are always important, and making a purpose, living a life of purpose.
Yes, sir.
So
thank you for
very
having me
much.
on, man. Thank you. You have a beautiful place here, by the way.
I appreciate
this is
it.
a very nice
I appreciate
spot.
it, bro. I would like to know a little bit more of yourself. You know, I would like our audience to get to know you a little bit more. So, could you share a little bit about your origins, like your parents, your grandparents? Where are they from? Where are you from?
Yes.
Where do you live?
Yes. So I live in the Redlands, which is a small town, an agriculture town in Miami, Florida. Okay. That's where I've been born and raised my whole life. My mother is an American from Pennsylvania, and my father's a Cuban that came, I believe, he left Cuba in the early 70s. And they flew to Puerto Rico, and they left with nothing. My grandfather and his dad, and so my great-grandfather, they were all entrepreneurs in Cuba. But when Fidel took over, they left. They got on a phone call, hey, the plane, you got a window, let's go. So they literally took a backpack, their 4 kids, jumped in the plane, flew to Puerto Rico. That's how my dad got out of that country. And at 3 years old, I was at 3 years old, and at 7, he moved to the United States in Miami, and that's where his thing started. And my story really starts with his story because he got into plants as an opportunity when he was like 8 or 9 years old to make money. So he would go to a local nursery and fill up bags that they would sell of soil for retail, and they would give him, I think, like 10 cents a bag. So that's how he got into that world of plants, collecting plants in his mother's backyard, and that's how he got into it, landscaping and stuff like that, and my story is very similar to that. My dad grew to have a very big operation, over 400 acres, selling to the chain stores Lowe's, which is the competitor of Home Depot, throughout the eastern part of the United States. And in 2009, when the crash happened between 8 and 10, everything that he had worked for basically blew up. And I was the kid that was in the farming nursery, world my whole life. Pampers and rubber boots is what I would wear when I was a kid. And so I learned a lot. And I got to be around entrepreneurs that I saw that were fearless, saw that brought something just different, a different edge. They understood the industry for the most part, but I got to see them grow. And then I also got to see them fall. And when they fell, that was something that to this day has been the number one lesson of my life is, is how not to run a business, okay? How not to have an ego, how your attitude's supposed to be, how you're supposed to show gratitude, how it's a team effort. And there's so many things that I learned from that it basically instilled a fear inside of me, which is, I feel, something that we all need. You got to be fearful of something to go so hard the other way away from it. And that fear was instilled into me where if I get a chance to do this, we can't fail. We got to make it as strong as possible, having assets, getting to that point and going, but doing proper business, doing it right. You make $1, you save 80, you can spend 20 and stuff like that, and reinvest 80% and save 20%, keep 20%. And those are the things that really taught me those values, core values, as much as other things in my life, God and family and how to be a right person and do things correctly. But it taught me a lot, that failure. So that's basically how I got into this industry. The kid listening to all these conversations, the $100,000 deals, the $1 million deals, the big moves that, hey, in 10 years, this property is going to be worth X amount of money. We got to grab it, even though we don't have the funds to do so, but we're going to make it happen. And seen what they were able to do with the connections that they had, bankers and friends. And I just saw so much being just a kid, wingman, standing there, learning, running out, learning every step of the whole business, from pulling a weed to spraying a chemical to planting a plant to what is in that soil, how one soil is not the same for every plant. You can't use the same soil. Some plants, they like it more wet, so you use a soil that has more ingredients so that hold humidity. Some don't like that. Some like to have more of a drier climate in the soil, so you got to use something that has more pine bark, something like that, let's say like a mulch. Chopped up in it where it doesn't absorb pretty much anything, but it's there and it'll provide some nutrients and it'll allow the roots to grab onto something. So every aspect, I learned every single aspect of it from the labor's point of view, from a laborer. That taught me a lot because you can't be a boss if you don't know how to do all the steps that it takes to have a finished product. And that was basically my college. That was my university. And when everything crumbled, I was working at the time there when that happened. But I started when I was a kid DJing at 12 years old, selling cars by 15. I did my first landscaping at 15. My mother actually drove me to my first landscaping that I ever did, which was it's a funny story today. You think about a 15-year-old kid with a desire and a drive to go do something, have never done it before. I was scared. But I was like, you know what? I have all these beautiful plants. I know how they grow. I know where they're supposed to go. I know what needs shade, what doesn't need shade. We're going to lay it out. We're going to do it. We did it in one day. I think it was like $5,400 that I was able to invoice a customer in one day at 15 years old with my mother that drove me there with 2 guys with me in a dump truck. And it was like, wow, this is what it really is to make money. Because when I was doing DJing, I would make $150 a night. That was my thing. $150, we'll go till the party's over. But I was booked every day. And this was my first opportunity of really making money because the cars that I started flipping at 15, it was like $200, $300 is what I would make. So that really opened my eyes to just a whole new world of what money is, how to make money, how to just do so much, whatever was going through my mind at that age.
Taking into consideration what you just told me about, your dad and maybe, and this is me creating a picture, trying to create a mental picture of what it could have been, growing in that scenario. I feel for you because it happened the same to me in
Oh
my
wow.
my main country in Venezuela. My grandfather came from Italy when he was 15 years old. He came to Venezuela and built a business that is running still today
That's cool.
after almost 60 years. But the government took a
Yeah.
portion of it. You understand me,
Yeah.
coming from
This
your
the
Cuban
same thing
origins.
that would have that happened to my grandparents in a way. Yep.
Exactly. Could you
Interesting.
share some of the personal and professional challenges that you had, and maybe touch a little bit on what you did, what strategy you used to overcome them?
Okay, I have a million stories. The mental state is there's no, like people say, there's no plan B. There's no we're gonna fail. This is 100% gonna go. There's no other option. That literally is, let's say, the root of it, and it starts there. And having that fear of failure from what I've seen in the past with my family's business and stuff like that. There's so many hurdles, man. From in this line of business that I'm in, I'm dealing with plants. So we're here in downtown Miami, filming this today, and Miami is a wonderland of tropical plants. And all these landscapes that you guys go to and you see, or when you're walking, you go to a botanical garden, you go to a park and you're like, wow, look how beautiful everything looks. You don't think where all this stuff comes from. It's all produced. So 85% of the tropical plants sourced to the whole United States comes from South Florida. Okay, so we are basically the start of what it takes to create these plants so landscapers can purchase them and do these beautiful installs. So there's so much risk, right? So you're jumping into one of the riskiest businesses in the world. It's not playing blackjack where you either go all on black or not. It's different than that, but you have elements of nature, which are creatures like bugs, insects that can eat the plants. Then you have cold temperatures that can burn the leaves. You have rain that can rot the roots, which will start the plant to fall apart. There's so many things that all of that taught me discipline. Okay, it's taught me discipline. You have to be pretty much out of your mind to go and invest all this money into a crop of plants when you're starting out, which is where I'm getting at. Not having clients, not having customers, not knowing 100% what's going to happen, having all the pressure of what just happened to your family that your family's dealing with, because that business that failed was a family business. So the whole family got impacted. So you're dealing with all of that, and then you're trying to see what you can grow because there's no other option. This is what I know, this is what I love, and this is what I feel that I have potential in growing to a point where you can become a millionaire, right? What do you do? How do you do it? So it's you pretty much go through it, not even understanding what's going on. It's more looking back at it now where it's like, man, how was I so fearless at that moment in my life? But it goes back to there's no other option. This is the option. So it's having that mentality, man. And then from there, it goes into building a business, which building a business for me, I feel like it's done the right way, the traditional way, where a handshake goes a long way. If you nod, that's what it is, a man of your word. Come through, all those type of things. And when I first started, it was, what plan are we going to do? How am I going to do it in a way that it's going to actually sell, where it looks appealing to whoever shows up, or if I can send a picture. When I started, pictures really weren't in. That wasn't a huge thing at that point. That was in 2010. We've been open for 13 years.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's like, how am I going to get these plants into customers' eyeballs? So I would sleep in a little box truck that I had bought. It was a 16-foot little box truck. And I would sleep in the truck. I would take what's called samples, so one of each, and then one of what the neighbors had. Because if I'm going to a nursery far up north, They don't know if I have it or not. So if I know my neighbor has it, I can help move my neighbor's product. I can help my neighbor. I can help myself. I can help them. So off to the road. So it would be 3 days at a time, 5 days at a time, sleeping in the truck, sleeping on the steering wheel, showering in the truck stops, whatever it took to make it happen.
For how long did you do that?
I didn't do that many times. I didn't like doing it. I did it. I did it, I think, 3 times. I did it 3 times, actual physically doing it 3 times. And it's something that I didn't like. I didn't want to do it because it was, imagine, I'm 20 years old, have some sales experience, but not much. I came from laboring to now having to go and pitch something that you are and that you can come through with and that you have showing one item in another part of Florida. So it was something that I really pushed myself, where it's that mindset of there's no other option. That really got that's now that I'm looking back at it, that's a huge part of it, man. Like let's go, who cares, you know?
You started, which I think is
You just gotta go, man.
You just gotta go.
You gotta jump into it. If you feel a desire to do something, you know, you can soak up on knowledge, but applying the knowledge, it turns into wisdom, right? So that's something that I gained that wisdom quickly.
Okay.
By actually applying whatever I had learned or whatever idea came to my mind, was applying it at that time. And things started to take off. You sell something to a client, they liked it, their client liked it, they come back. And from there it went growing. And then in the plant world, there's thousands of varieties of different type of plants that you can grow. So it's like, what else do I do? What else can I do? I sold a whole block of this item and now I won't have them for another 8 months. So now I'm stagnant with no sales for 8 months. So now what do I do? And then if you sell it in one size, you gotta have the chain. You gotta have the smaller, the baby, then the next size and the next size to get it to that size that you wanna sell it at. So I learned I learned that from my, let's say, my father. So I had to have the chain, but when I sold the finished product, I wouldn't have a finished product again for 8 months. So then that's when you start looking to grow. So then, you know, now it's like, let's grab whatever we have and let's go saving and let's go rent a piece of property. Because renting in my part of the industry is the better way to have production up quicker. With less funds. You can actually put the money towards the product that you're going to be selling. If you go to try to buy something and you're not ready yet, all your money goes to the down and now you have no money to create anything.
And sustain the business.
And sustain the business. You know, when you're starting off, the last thing you want to do is go after any type of asset, which is land and stuff like that. A traditional asset, what someone would call an asset. You got to look at it as I got to grow my assets, meaning my inventory, my name, my business, my reputation. And with that, I'll be able to get more customers that will want to use our services or products or whatever. And then from there, now I can move more volume. And once I start moving more volume, now I make more money. And now I can go and start thinking about assets. That came, I bought my first real estate property for the business. I was 24 years old. 24 years old, I bought 10 acres that today, in just a little bit amount of time, it's been 8 years. I know the market's been crazy. You know, everything that's going on, I feel like the money's not real. Everything's inflated. So if you doubled your numbers from 3 years ago till now, it's kind of like it happened because money got injected. So it's not really just you know? But from there, actually buying it, now today it's worth almost 8 times what it was purchased for.
So you could say you started focusing on one thing. I mean,
only one thing, sticking to one thing.
Acquiring a company, acquiring a land at 24 years, I still think is a great achievement.
Yes.
So congratulations for that. It takes a lot because we all been at 24 years old.
Yeah, 100%.
And I remember when I was 24, I was thinking in other stuff. Even though I was thinking about money, about business, I didn't understand how it works. Mm-hmm. And I was focusing on just creating the next new thing, which is a thing that it's okay for you to think like that because you want to create something. But some people get bottled into the fact that they just want to create something that it doesn't exist right now in the market, and they get stuck because they realize, especially in America, that almost everything is in the market right now. Tell me a little bit about that first sweet moment, that victory that made you. It was a reaffirmation of, you know what I'm doing makes sense. This is the path that I decided to go, and I'm moving forward with this.
Oof. There's so many things, victories and wins and stuff like that. There's not one that made it make sense, because I knew it was gonna make sense, because when I jumped into this industry, as you're driving through there's nurseries all over the place, and then you see a nursery that's 1,000 acres, and you're like, man, if they can have 1,000 acres, and my father was able to build something with his team of 400 acres, why couldn't I be a part of something like that? But it's the goal, the wins, the small wins. For me, it was, wow, I sold 400 plants to one guy, crazy. Wow, I got an order for 1,000 plants at $20, that's $20,000. Those were the things that were like, wow, like this exists out there, and it was very eye-opening to me at that young age. But the wins are like that. For me, it was, we got to sell 500,000. We got to go after 1 million. And then from there, it just started climbing to the next and the next and the next. Big victories has always been something that I love, is buying, real estate. Buying real estate, a new endeavor. Those are things to me that are wins, that keeps you pumped and fueled, because now there's a lot that goes into, now you bought the property, great, congratulations, but now you got to set it up and you got to fill it up, and now you got to sell it all. And it's just, just fun. There's never a dull moment in our side of the industry. But one thing I want to bring up, where you talked about that there's not really anything new. You can't really bring anything new to the marketplace because you're in the United States and everything's already been created. It's very true, depending on the markets that you're in, that the majority of the markets that people think exist, like real estate, stock, and finance and stuff like that, pretty much all of that has been created. But when you jump into industries and you really dive into industries, you see that there is an abundance of, there's a lack, not an abundance, there's a lack of an abundance of resources, or a lack of an abundance of ideas or things that have been created. And one of the reasons why we are where we are today is because we have seen and understood our industry to the point where we know how to target specific tiers of customers and clients, that this is an industry that is lacking so much, that has nothing but opportunity for people as investors, for tech, for just so much to really grasp a hold of, that it's insane. This state is the largest state for plants out of all the states of the United States. And in 2002, it sold $36.4 billion in the state of Florida on the wholesale side. So that is not plants purchased from a landscaper and installed times 3% or times 5%. That is on the wholesale side for the state as nurseries. So when you think of that, it's wild. It's an industry that you wouldn't think, as you're walking through a park and you see the plants left and right and everything's green and tropical and lush and beautiful, you wouldn't think that there's just so much opportunity in this industry. And there is. So I'm blessed that I was born into this industry in a way. But we've taken it and kicked it up 100 notches, when it comes to that, and really creating things that haven't been created. Like there's no coaches in our industry. I think we're one of the only coaches for business side of this industry, for the whole industry, on what it is, plants. And then podcast, the only one. There's just so much. Like one thing I love to do that I've learned about which is another niche within the niche, is you want to open a garden center, a retail wholesale garden center. There's no one that can guide you and give you a play-by-play book on how to do that. Your competitor is not going to tell you how to do it. So where do you go? You either got to be in the industry, brought up in it, have big ones between your legs, and try to figure it out. But something that we've done, and I didn't even notice that it was happening, is guiding garden centers how to really stand out amongst the other garden centers in their area. Because for me, as a salesperson running a business, I have to generate and move sales. So one of the ways to do so is strengthen up your clients that you already have by talking with them. And it's almost not guiding, but bouncing ideas off each other. And from there, now you're giving them ideas to implement that can make them stronger. And then us being the producers of the product, and also we go and source other people's product, which is creating streams within the business. We can do things on our end that normal companies wouldn't do, that help our clients do nothing but elevate and stand out, because the product is just on a whole nother level and quality to a landscaper. You know, like let's say we get a hold of the product and we put it to the side and we hold it for 3 months, 4 months, which that's been a whole thing in our industry, a shortage of product. What
Forever?
do you think?
Or
No,
it's
this
on the recent times?
from pandemic. From the
Okay.
pandemic, pots were hard to find, soil was hard to find, plants were hard to find, the starting plants were hard to find. All the factories got shut down. Okay. They had 20 people working. Now it's like, hey, only 5 at a time, 6 feet distance. So it slowed down production. Then you have the building boom that happened, that everyone wanted to buy into real estate and flipping homes and doing this, and Airbnb blew up and everything blew up. The demand. So you had a shortage of products to be able to create it, and a huge demand. So it's been a wild, wild west is what I call it. So now, like, just by holding a product for somebody, which a normal guy wouldn't do, because if you get a phone call for that plant, why would you hold it and wait 3 months for the client to be ready to take it? But by doing that, I wasn't looking out to make money, because I'm not in this industry just for money. It's for full fulfillment. We were able to give this landscaper something that no one else had, because since everyone else was buying what was available, everything was tiny. So when you show up with something like this to your install, and you're doing a $15 million house, $500,000 landscape, what do you think is going to happen to that landscaper? Their company. They're going to stand out in the whole neighborhood. The same thing with the garden center. All the garden centers have little plants, and now this guy has these monsters. Where are you getting this stuff from? I got it. It's okay. Click up the price, sell it for whatever you have to. Don't be scared, because you're going to sell it. So we learned so much, and we've been able to help out our clients that are building, we're basically building relationships with them, which to me is the most important thing, is more important than money. Relationships
Absolutely.
mean everything. That's how you get things done, and help them elevate. So one, we've created a bond with our customer that's a lifetime long bond. So that's great. We helped them and taught them how to elevate. So now we built up their confidence, making them less fearful of whatever they're going to get into next. And we help them stand out in a crowd. So all that is building strength. And that's what reputations do. And that's what these little things do. And you go learning that as you go learning about the industry, learning about what you can do. And then you talk to, one day I talked to a guy that has $100 in his pocket at 10 in the morning, and at 10:30 I'm on a call with somebody that's worth $50 million or $100 million. Back and forth, just talking to so many people and really absorbing, listening and absorbing and learning. Can never stop learning. We'll never stop learning. And that's what excites and fuels and just so much, and inspired us to now, I wanted to speak. So we found a way to do so, which my co-founder of the Plant Movement podcast said, hey, we got to do a podcast. We set everything up. The first podcast, nervous, never been done. And then your reputation's on the line, right? Because now you're talking. It's one thing talking to a client. on the phone. It's another thing talking to the masses. So when you already have something existing in an industry that's small, but also huge, and you are trying to climb the ladder. So we use that as a way to stand out, to just stand out more and really bring something of value and education to the industry, because I am lucky that I have 4 generations of businessmen that put it down the ladder. My great grandfather gave it to my grandfather gave it to my dad, and my dad gave it to me on certain things that I was able to learn, and then taking it off to a whole nother level and implementing all these different services and learning about just how to build somebody else up. That why can't we bring this value to the whole industry and really help the industry thrive? And when you look back at it, we started that 2 years ago, and today the financial world on how it is, money, the economy, all these different things that are realistic, we're able to now have gained the trust of the people, the listeners, and really add value at a time of need when people made a lot of money, but now it's dropped. So now what did you do? What are you doing? We've been helping people for the last few years on how to build a strong business, how to have assets to back you up when cash flow slows down, and just really create something powerful. That all comes from God, because I walk with him and I believe that he moves one foot in front of the other for you. And if you see it from that type of way and you're walking with him, you look at it from, let's say, what's called a worldly view, where you have both feet planted on the ground. You see what you have as resources, you see what's happening around you, and then what moves you in a passionate way, and what's the right thing to do. And you see it in a spiritual world as well. And from there, it helps you make really strong decisions that are not for yourself, but to better everyone around you. Because at this point, that's what it's about. It's about elevating the whole community and doing something impactful. And that's where we are.
I agree 100%. That's why our show is called Making an Impact, because
I love the name.
I think that especially nowadays, there's a lack of empathy. I think people used to be a little bit more related to other people's needs, but social media, even though open up the door for unlimited resources and a non-limited network, etc., it open up the door for the negative side, which is narcissistic behaviors and individualist behaviors, just thinking about yourself and what could you take from somebody.
Putting yourself on a pedestal.
When you start on a path, I think you start becoming slowly, because people think it happens pretty quick, but slowly you start acquiring the skill set to perform better at your industry, at anything that you're doing.
You get to the point where you have learned enough to now implement the small details that help you stand out. That's one of the things that we believe and we teach, is that the details is what helps you stand out. Because if you're already in an industry, like you want to start a business, it's going to be scary. You're going to jump into something that there's already other fish swimming in that pond. You have to really think on what I can do to really stand out. And it's not going to happen overnight. That's at a 5 to 10 year run where you can really understand everything you need to know to really fine tune the details. But when you get there and you can really do that, you stand by yourself in a different way. No competition in a way, because you're doing things that haven't been done, or they have, but you just do them so much better that it allows you to really stand out.
Obviously you have 13 years in this industry, you are an expert.
Longer,
at this
my
point.
whole life. 13 years doing it on my own.
on your own. So you were able and you were capable of identifying your industry gaps, the needs that the industry had. And obviously you started applying immediately the innovation. And I think, obviously, based on what you told me, that nobody's doing the podcast right now in your industry, and the fact that you are one of the only coaches in South Florida and possibly throughout the entire country.
On the business side.
now you are sharing your knowledge to people who might not be that lucky, and or maybe they had other areas of expertise and they had other mentors, but you are now giving them the opportunity to change or
No,
build
to see it in a
something out
different
of
way.
themselves.
See it in a different way. That's something like you said. You might be a professional in one avenue, like in our industry. You might be able to grow a really pretty plant, but you might not know how to sell it. Or you might be a great sales guy, but what you're trying to sell is not targeting the market, and you just don't see it. But that's where we come to play, and we can really help and guide somebody based off what we see. Maybe there's nothing we can guide because maybe we don't know that, but maybe we know somebody that can help. And it's no ego and giving back, which is not what every community is. Most communities, they like to hold all their secrets. They like to keep everything to themselves because they want to prosper. And the Bible says, "You give and you shall receive." And that's something that is 100% true in just that. In that is you give. Let's say you're not giving all your knowledge, but you're giving enough to spark an idea into someone's mind. And it takes you 5 or 10 minutes to get there in that conversation with the person. That's all part of giving back, and doing something that can help somebody else elevate and get to where they're trying to go. We all have dreams. We're all trying to go somewhere, right? But yes, when I see it as a huge privilege, and I see that I was able to take the positive out of the negative, and that's something that we implement today. Failure, twice. My grandfather lost it all and had to leave to Puerto Rico with a backpack and his 4 kids in a plane in the middle of the night. Lost it all. Came back, did it again over here, built it up, 2008, 2009. My father lost it all. So it's 2 massive failures that you would think, who's going to get up from that? But from there, you stand up strong. You learn from what, like your L's, you take an L, It's a loss or it's a lesson. You learn from it, you go back, you do it again, you restructure. And that's something that I am so grateful. I'm not grateful that it happened, but since it already happened and you can't change the past, I'm grateful that I took the L's as lessons and really implement something that will be able to help so many people just with the walk. We all have different walks, man. You have a million things you can guide me on, and I have things I can guide you on, and that's just how it is. We all have different stories.
You realize that you could learn something from everyone. Mm-hmm. Every single person, when you pay attention to it and you start you pay attention to empathy, and you realize how many things you could learn from everyone in this world. Mm-hmm. You start gaining so much knowledge, mm-hmm. and a set of skill sets that will allow you to perform in any industry that mm-hmm. you want to perform. Now, coming a little bit into the present, to who you are today, how did your past experiences created the character that you are today, and what problems that used to be in the past are not longer today, and how did they change? Like, what are the new problems? What are the new challenges?
So whenever there's a challenge, you got to have a game plan to get out of it. So that's step one. A problem arises, what's the game plan to get out, and stick to the game plan, tweak it if you have to, but your number one goal is to get out of that situation. The run has been broke, no money, having to do other things to create incomes, to live life humbly, small, even though you're making this much money, not touching it, discipline to put it back, having credit card debt to the roof, okay, paying what used to be 21% or 18.99, and learning how to get out of that. Learning how, if you have a mattress that you're still making payments on, the bank might not approve you to go get that loan that you need to go jump into the real estate game, which is something I learned early on. And how that can impact you if you have cars, finance, boats, and all these different things that are toys. and how that's not needed to get to where you're trying to go. You don't need that. That doesn't help you. So it's like, how hungry are you to live like that and put it all back? And just learning all of those things, failures, plenty of failures, $500,000 lost, 26 years old. You know, like real loss, real things. A freeze comes in, what's called a freeze. So anything close to 32 degrees. So anything, since it's tropical plants, they like the warm climate. Anything under 40 degrees in Miami, you're gonna start to see plants burn, defoliate, which is when the leaves fall off. So what to do to combat that? Which there's a lot of different things that we can do to maintain the plant's healthiness during that period of time. And having loss there. Hurricanes come, blow away your plants. Like, this is a loss. This is an industry that you got to get ready for loss. Like, if anything teaches you about discipline and how to be fearless, even if you lose, this industry is a great example. A hurricane blows through, you lose $500,000 of product, you lose $1 million, and that's what it is. You can ask any of us that have been doing this for a long time that have, you know, a sustainable amount of inventory, and it is what it is. What are you gonna do? You know, you take the L and you take the L and you learn something from it, and you keep on moving forward, and you keep pushing forward, and you make sure that you have money put away, that you have paid off assets so you can extract some funds. You make sure you have your credit right. You make sure that you don't have the excess toys financed. You want a toy, go buy it. If you don't have the money to buy a toy, why are you buying it? Go make some more money, so now you got real money to go buy the toy. You can swipe your debit card. I know that's not tradition, but if you're trying to grow and you're using your credit, all right, look at it as a pie, and you have 60% of it used up on things that don't produce money for you, and you're left with 40, and now what you're trying to get, you need 80% of it, you're never gonna get there. You're gonna lose every opportunity that comes to you. How bad do you want it? How disciplined are you gonna be? Leaving instant gratification for later, you know? And, you know, the more of the influential things that we see today, you know, on just social media and all this stuff. None of that, in the true reality of you walking by yourself throughout your entrepreneurship journey, none of that really matters if you are really wanting to do what you want to do. Why would you let anything stray you away? Why would you let something be a negative impact on you when you're going and you finally got that opportunity to go jump on something, but now you can't put it all together because you weren't preparing from before. You know, you got to show up prepared. You got to show up ready. You know, and I don't know. There's just so many things that go into building a successful business, and it all comes down to the person that's operating it, how their mindset is, and I really, really think that the fear that you instill, that we all get the fear, like the podcast, the way that came to flourish was a couple years prior. Trump was running for presidency, and something just didn't sit well inside of me with the financial world, the financial system. I mean, things are we've been climbing. It's got to come down. The fear of what I had seen with my father, and I said, I gotta do something. Yeah, I gotta do something to make sure that every individual possible has either heard of our name or we have been able to do something for them. Either is it sell a product or a service. That way our opportunities are greater to stay afloat during that time. So here we are 4 or 5 years later. And that's the fear that my partner Eddie, my brother, my confidant, is the one that brought that out of me. He goes, man, what? You were so fearful. That's what really took you to that level of let's go as hard as we've ever gone. And we were at a level that we weren't in a bad position, right? But you don't think about yourself as you go growing. You turn into somewhat of a leader without you even paying attention to it, where you're looking at everyone around you, looking at you, like, what are you gonna do? And it's like, okay, how many people, I have 60 employees, which is a blessing that we have 60 employees, the company, all their families, all the people we buy products from, the people we buy pots from, soil, all these people that they eat from this. And what am I going to do? Sit back and let it blow up? It's like, no, we're going to go so hard that people aren't going to be ready for how hard we're going to come. That's that fuel, that drive, where a car will not steer me away, where a vacation won't steer me away, where nothing stupid will steer me away when it comes to making a bad decision with money. It is all in, let's go, and we're going to get through it. And when we get through it, the mindset is being on a top tier.
Absolutely. And to add to your point, obviously, I have a little bit of a psychology background. I did a master in coaching, and I didn't do it because I wanted to be a psychologist. I did it because I just love psychology and the mind, the human mind. And one thing that kind of disconnects the mind from reality is when you get dominated by your emotions. And look, I'm in the marketing and public relations business. I use neuromarketing to sell my clients products and bring awareness to their brands. But one thing I realize is that we humans, we react a lot to emotions, and we take decisions based on our emotions. And most of the time, that doesn't play in our favor, especially when you need to do sacrifices. Initiating a project requires a lot of sacrifices. You can tell it, your father could, your grandparents can state that. You know, it takes a lot of sacrifices that when distraction and temptation hits, you gotta be able to control your emotions. And I think that's a very good point that you made. Now, when you said that you gotta be prepared for the losses, that the one thing that comes to my mind when I think of losses is stress. What do you do to cope and handle stress?
So stress is when you have too much on your plate that you feel that you can't handle. So number one, you never let it get there. So you're never stressed. You know that everything with the right game plan will allow you to get out of any situation you're in. And there's no real way to deal with stress. And let's say there might be situations that might be stressful or start to feel stressful, but it's something that since I walk in faith, I know that whatever's coming is either a W or an L, and the L is for a lesson. So I know I'm going to learn something, and it's part of the journey. It's up and down, up and down, up and down, and hopefully you get to the top. You walk, you climb 15 minutes, and you take a break, you drink some water, and then you keep climbing. And so it's knowing that it's part of life, it's part of what could happen, and you learn from it. Hey, we decided to open this door. Ooh, it was the wrong door. Wait, let's go back to the door that we opened that was right, and let's go to this door over here, and let's open this door. And now you go opening the right doors. And it also has to do with being knowledgeable enough and confident and stuff like that you understand the position that you're in when it comes to what you've done for the past 13 years of compounding profits that puts you in a state of mind of peace. Where it's like, hey, this place can blow up tomorrow. It's okay because we have assets to be able to fund the project again and start from zip if we have to. And the knowledge that has been acquired, the wisdom, to keep going. But stress is something that I don't allow to overpower me at all. I look at that as like a demon. and I want to get it away from me as fast as possible. And what I can't handle, there's somebody that can handle it. So that's where relationships come into play.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what about balancing, understanding that when you initiated this, you didn't have a family? Is that correct?
I didn't have a family. Today I have 3 children. I have a wife, 17 years. We've been married for 10, and we have a son and twin girls. So that's a whole nother part of
That's
the
beautiful.
entrepreneurial game, which if you don't have kids and you're young and you're listening to this, don't have kids. Don't have kids till you have been able to actually create something. For me, I didn't want to have kids with my wife until I felt financially stable where I can give them the life that I wanted to give them, which wasn't just putting them through school and buying them some shoes. It was, I want to be able to put them in a good school. You know, I want to be able to have Florida prepaid for them. And I want to be able to set them up for the future. So it was more of that. It was more of the selfishness of I have to build up who I am as a man. Let my wife know that she can trust me 100% with all these decisions. And then from there, create that atmosphere, that world to then be confident and comfortable enough to bring a child into the world, where you have help on the other end, because that was one of the hardest things for me, in all honesty, was shifting from leaving the house at 4:35 in the morning, getting home at 8, 9 o'clock at night, 6 days a week, to now, oh wow, I have a kid at home. I can't do this anymore. And now I have to basically die off and kill off the old Willie and reincarnate a new Willie that now has a family. So
To reinvent yourself on a more human aspect,
human
obviously,
aspect.
because when, you know, even though I don't have kids, I come from a very conventional or traditional family household. And what I learned is that, you know, my mother told me once that she she loved that she was an entrepreneur, and she still is, but she will have wanted to have a little bit more of time to share with us, even though they were very present, both my mom and my dad. How are you managing your first project, which is Ace Ornamental Nursery, the podcast, and your personal life? How do you set up priorities when it comes to work on those projects, your business projects, personal projects, and your family?
Yeah. So it comes down to a team. There's no way you can be doing so much and not have a good team around you. And attracting a good team is all based on your energy and what you bring to the table as a leader. So the team is number one. Without the team, it ain't happening. So building a team was another thing that you have to trust in and have faith in God at the end of the day, because you're giving someone a task that either you used to do to buy yourself time, now you're giving it off to somebody else, which is something that was implemented, or you're trusting in them fully, you not knowing how to perform a task, but you need that task done and you hire someone to do that task. So it's building trust within your team, which I tell all the team members as they start, I tell them, look, I don't know you, but you seem like someone that can get the job done. So you have my 100% trust, which is backwards of how society is. Show me who you are and then I'll trust you. No, listen, I have no other option right now but to trust you. So don't mess it up, because if you mess that up, now I will not trust you anymore and you will have to go. So building a team, number one. And there's teams all over. There's the team for the nursery. There's the team for the Plant Movement podcast, which is Eddie. And then there is, and Mr. Producer. And then there's the team at home, right? Which is the wife, the mommy, whoever helps her out in the tasks of that. So it's putting faith and trust into people to be able to execute that. And then, like, my kids are small, so something I would love to say. My kids are small. They're 4. The girls are 4, and then my son's 6. Kids' most precious years are from when they're born, let's say 2, 3 years old, up to about 8 to 10 years old. Those are moments that they want to be with their parents. They look up to their parents. They want to spend every minute with them. Those are the moments that you have to be there as a father. Not every minute of the day, but you want to be able to enjoy that. So that's where that work-life balance comes into play, to what is 100% important as a priority at that moment of your day. So you have 6 hours to execute, but then you need an hour for yourself to go to the gym. And then you got to spend some time with the wife. You got to spend some time with the kids. All these things matter. Okay. You can't be that entrepreneur, or you can be that entrepreneur that is goal driven. Let's go 1,000%. That's why you're supposed to go do that before you have kids. That way, when you do have kids, you can enjoy that time. Like you said, your mother wishes she had more time because she was an entrepreneur. If she would, not her, but if you go so hard and you compound your opportunities, you compound your gains, your profits, and you compound the teams and you compound the visions, and you go after something and all the pieces fall in place because it's that positive energy driven by the man upstairs that guides you, you can have it all. You can have it all, and you base it off your day and what you're gonna do. But I will drop everything to go watch my kids sing, to go play baseball, to go throw the ball, to go do whatever it is, because that is what is priority at that moment. If I gotta take a phone call and that's a priority, or I gotta drive somewhere, I gotta be somewhere, that's priority at that moment, but you schedule it throughout your day. That way you can have full fulfillment of what your life is. There's a million moving parts to all of our lives. But what are you going to make more of a priority? And to me, my kids are a priority, and I want to be in their life. So,
When it comes to the most valuable asset a human can have, a person can have, I can't stop thinking about timing, the time. And everything is about quality time. And you mentioned the kids and the time spent with your kids, with your wife, with your employees, because I'm pretty sure, you got 60 employees, correct? You got 60 employees and all of them have a life out of work. That impacts directly their performance when they're working in your project,
their
in your
mindset.
business.
Yep.
So I think time is something we need to take care of in every single aspect of our lives. Quality time with the family, quality time with our employees, quality time with your
Even yourself.
friends.
And even yourself.
And even yourself. That's correct.
Quality time alone.
You mentioned that you went through a body weight transformation.
Yes.
When obviously personal challenges hit you and you gain a couple of pounds.
Yeah, 240 pounds, and I lost 60 pounds. And now I've gained some because I started going to the gym. So
Exactly. So that's me time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And especially women, we are, with all respect to the women, I think, I love women. I love my mother. I have a sister that I love very much. And even though women have a huge responsibility, especially as humans, because they are the only ones who can reproduce, they are the only ones capable of giving birth to another human. We men have a responsibility since we were cavemen, protecting and making something a space, a safe a space for our tribe. And that's a huge responsibility, man. And it almost doesn't allow us to have room for me time.
yeah, what my mind takes me as you say that, which is something that I could have said earlier. It's not about you. It's not about you, man. It's not about you. People come into like the world today, society today is, this is what I want to do what you feel. It's not about you, man. It's about what you have to do. That there's no other option. You have to do this as a man. You have to come through for the people around you, for your mother. You have to do it. There's no option other than actually get it done, and no excuses. I feel like today the society is just an excuse-filled society. And there's not that need to actually go out and say, it's not about me, it's about everyone around me and what I'm supposed to do. Because if you think about it, the chances of you being here are slim to none from a sperm cell. And then now you're here, you're put in this earth to do something. It's called purpose. So your job is to find your purpose. Build yourself up by climbing and falling and climbing and falling, and then finding what you're supposed to do in life, things that you're passionate about, things that move you and fuel you, excite you and keep you moving, and then you go after that. And you have no clue the positivity that you bring to the earth, and you're focused more on that. You know, our job is to leave something for not just our kids, but our kids' kids. And for me, I would love to leave something that's eternal. So for that, you can't do what you want to do. You have to do what you have to do. So plan your day on things that you have to do. And that, to me, is something that really, that's my calendar. What I have to do. What I have to get done, what I have to do, whether I want to do it or not. Unless I have a pounding headache or I'm sick as a dog, I don't care. I'm going to be there. Zero excuses. There's no excuses.
What's the legacy? What's the impact that you want to leave both on your personal side with your family and friends and brothers like Eddie, your co-founder on the Plant Movement podcast, and your business, your employees, the new plans and everything? What's the legacy? What's the impact that you want to leave?
That anything's possible. And when you walk in faith, you see that everything is possible, and that you can be fearless, because the only person that I fear is the man upstairs. So I'm not feared about money. I'm not feared about this or someone coming up, and I don't care about none of that. Be fearless. Walk with him. What I want to leave with my kids is strength. Be strong. Know who you are. Be certain. Don't let nobody shift your perspective. You know, if you're certain in that. And it's not so much money, man. It's more of the principles and values of what it takes to be a good human on earth. Money, you can have it today, it can be gone tomorrow. That's what's the understanding of it. That's how you become a fearless investor. Because you understand that it doesn't matter. It's material. What matters is your life, the psychology side of it, how you think, the power that you bring to the table, the energy, the opportunities you get from being that and showing that and not being scared. Not being scared. You cannot care what other people think. And that's something that I've been on a journey over the last few years, really, especially getting into the social media world, of filming yourself and all of that. It's like, dude, who cares at the end of the day? If you're putting out something positive, who cares? Go. You know?
People will talk, and there's a saying in my industry that there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah.
What it matters is people talking about what you're doing.
Exactly.
If people are talking about what you're doing, bad, negative, or positively,
it's all good.
Is all what it matters. You know
it's
what I mean?
all making you.
You're making an impact.
You're making an impact.
You're making an
100%.
impact. What about the future plans? Short term and long term. What are your future plans? What's your vision?
My future plans are to just keep going with what's going on right now. What we're doing. What we're doing with the Plant Movement podcast is we've created something called the Plant Movement Network. So what we're trying to do with the Plant Movement Network is as time goes on, implement other things, like other businesses that we're already creating, like helping people grow plants a specific, to a beautiful format, offering, trucking and different things that we're doing. But with the Plant Movement Network is letting it be for the community. So the person that is really excited about killing off bugs on a plant, they can jump in and be part of the network and have all the resources that we have, but pump it through there, and getting to the coaching aspect of speaking in front of, on stage and speaking with people, and growing that to be the #1 marketing agency, let's say, and a place of just abundant opportunities for our industry and our niche, since it's so small. And for me, it's just keep going, man. Touch lives and do whatever God wants me to do that day. Fulfill my purpose. I'm not thinking 10, 20, 30 years from now. I plan for that by just doing the same thing that I know will get me somewhere later. But there's no goal in place that I have to hit this number in 5 years, or I have to do this. It's like, I'm gonna do whatever I have to do today, plan for the future, but do what I have to do today, shake the hand that I gotta shake today, open the door for the lady that I have to open today, give the person a hug that I see that needs one, and just go life like that, and go day by day, and that's really where it is.
What about family-wise? What's your vision? Obviously, you already
No
have a
more, no more, no
well-established
more
family.
kids. No more kids, man. For the kids, it's be there when they need me the most.
Okay.
When they're going through hardship, be in their life enough to understand that they're going through it and guide them in the best way possible by speaking with them and mentoring them, being involved. With my kids, obviously, I want them to be better than me. But whatever it is, I want them to find their purpose. And that's all I care about. Whatever it ends up being, it is what it is. But I want them to be fulfilled. And one way that I feel like you are fulfilled is by finding why you are here on earth and what's your reason to be alive today? And what are you going to do today to fulfill that reason?
So Willie, we reached amazing conversation. We have reached a point of the show that we talk. We call the time capsule. This is where we go through 3 different times: the past, the present, and the future. And what we want you to give us is, and give our audience is, a reflection from the past, a recommendation from your present, from your current situation, and a prediction for the future. What do you predict your future will be? Okay. So let's start with the past. Based on all the experiences that you had, challenges, victories, mentors, etc., friends, connections, family. What's the best reflection? What's the best advice?
The best advice is probably just go. The best advice is probably just go if it's something that you feel passionate about. And if you are building your business and you feel that you have reached a point where you don't see things where you wanted them to be, where you had those goals set, but you know that if you continue, it will happen, do not stop. Stick to one thing and go as hard as you can. And over time, everything, all the quirks will get worked out, and learn to execute quickly and just really, really not get so much in your head. Just apply every single day and do what you have to do and stay focused and don't get veered off with any type of distractions, because jumping from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing, it's hard to actually grow. Just sticking with it.
Amazing, amazing. And what would be the recommendation based on your current state after all your past experiences? You came to this point of realization, and both from a family standpoint and business standpoint. What would be your recommendation when you are trying to expand? You're trying to level up, both personal and professionally speaking. What would be your recommendation to our audience?
Understanding that there's only so much time in a day, and you have to dedicate your time to what is most valuable, whether it be the family, the kids, the wife, yourself, or the business. And if you can always find time to do what you have to do, and never trade money for time on things that you can't get back. Build a team that can help you buy that time to go after what is important to you in life. Because if not, I wouldn't be sitting here right now today.
Interesting, interesting. That's a great recommendation. And now jumping into the future and the final time, the most difficult one, because it's the only one that we don't know what's going to happen. Life is unpredictable, as we were talking about earlier today. What would be your prediction from a personal and professional standpoint? How do you see, how do you predict you will be in the future? Maybe your retirement, later years, 80, 90 years. How do you see yourself?
I see myself leaving a big impact on an industry that is big but small, very niche. At the end of the day, I see me leaving a very big impact on a positive note. That I feel is tremendous, in a way that I feel almost humbled that I get to be a part of. I see that, and then knowing that if all the things going back to when you first start your business, of the little things of being disciplined, all those little discipline moves, they pay off. And you will reach a point that you will pay off the credit cards, and you will have the good opportunities to work with the good people, and you will have a good team, and you will be able to buy assets, and you will be able to do all these things, because those are things that you were disciplined enough to put away for and push for when you didn't have anything to show for it. And here we are today. My dream when I was a kid was to own 65 acres. Not when I was a kid, but when I started off my 401k, my retirement was 60 acres bought and paid for by the time I was 65. And we have surpassed that.
I was going to say that
we've
you're
surpassed
ahead.
it. The business just purchased another property, which is because of need, because we see the opportunity to, and the reasons to, and the shortages to be able to do so. And it all goes into that you can't just stick to a dream. You can't stick to a goal. You can't just put a goal in place and try to stick to it. Sometimes you surpass them. And the goal today is just be a better human tomorrow and give back every single day. And don't forget that if you follow and you're guided by the man upstairs, there's nothing to fear, because he's going to put everything in place to fulfill your purpose, because he needs you to do something. That's the reason why you're here. So walk fearless.
That's a beautiful statement. So Willie, it's been a true pleasure to have you here, man. I think
Likewise,
you're a well-centered man, very, very humble. And even though you are well-established and you have acquired a wealth that gets you to be financially free, you still are thinking about as if you were this kid who didn't want his family to pass through the same things that you passed when your father or your dad passed when his father lost everything. So it's been a great pleasure to have you here. I really hope we can initiate a relationship after this, because I think good people should stick together and to start bringing more awareness and more positivity out in this world. And you are definitely somebody who's leaving a positive impact into this world. And we need more people like you.
Thank you, man.
So I truly appreciate
Thank
you
you,
came
man. It's been awesome to come. It's been awesome to just share this. And by doing this podcast, it takes me to places that my mind hasn't taken me in a long time. So I get to be enlightened again on just whatever went through my mind as I was speaking. So I thank you guys for that. I think what you guys are doing is going to leave an impact. And I hope nothing but prosperity for this, and for you to leave your legacy and whatever that you're trying to do. And 100%, we will definitely be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you very much. To our audience, thank you very much for tuning in today. I really hope you get some inspiration out of Willie's example. I think there's a lot of room you could use, a lot of things you could use in your advantage. And I truly appreciate you watching this episode today, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.